All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Beast Wars Deluxe Class Cheetor, one of the original Maximals here. Now, I am missing a pretty significant part of this guy. I am missing the gut gun, which I don't know. Personally, I've always kind of felt like he doesn't really need. I mean, I know it's one of the things that he actually had in the show, but like having this part gone doesn't really affect the beast mode all that much. In fact, I think it makes it actually look a little bit sleeker without like the sort of like underhanging section down there. So it's never really bothered me. And it also doesn't have a place to go in robot mode, and it also has like a gun that sticks out underneath. I have never really liked the gut gun personally. I think that the tail gun is just fine, but worth mentioning there. But yeah, his cheetah mode is okay. Famously, this guy was used for two different figures, for Cheetor and for Tigatron, which is, this is kind of going to be a review for both of these because they're pretty much the same figure. But, I'm just going to call it the Cheetor review for simplicity's sake. But yeah, it works, I think, a lot better in alt mode as Tigatron and a little bit better in robot mode as Cheetor just because of the head sculpt. Because like it doesn't really look like a cheetah, but as like the tiger proportions, I feel like it works fairly well. Now, neither of these guys are actually their original versions. For Cheetor, this is the Fox Kids repaint, which is honestly one of the ones that doesn't change a whole lot. The only big difference is that the blue for all the details in robot mode is like a lot more muted and grayed out, which honestly I don't really mind. Like maybe it's just because this is the version I had as a kid, but I've always kind of preferred this version. It just looks a little bit, I don't know, a little bit classier than the original one, though, having more like of a pronounced saturated blue definitely does make it look a little bit more show accurate. So like, give or take, I don't think that there's a huge difference. And for Tigatron, this is actually the Japanese version, because the American version basically had, this kind of like yellow all over the figure, like out of the box. It just looked like it had sun damage. So it's I've never really liked the look of that one. Granted, my Japanese version has also gotten a bit of like real sun damage on like the side of, it must be, I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say it must be on the no, yeah, it must have been him standing in robot mode because of where all the sun damage is. It's just like, oh, on this side of the leg, this side of this leg, this side of the head. It all lines up in robot mode, but not in tiger mode. But it's a bit unfortunate. But even with that, I still think it looks better than the American version, where the whole thing is just like pre off-white, which I don't think looks particularly good. And yes, I am also missing the gut gun for him as well, so I don't have it for either of them. But yeah, that's what they look like in their alt modes here. In terms of comparisons, here they are with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for a standard size comparison there. Here they are with the Netflix Cheetor and the Kingdom Tigatron, just so you can see what they look like with the two, newer versions of these characters. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the new versions look better in both modes pretty much. But, this one is like I said, this mold looks better as the tiger, but I feel like all four of them look fairly good. It's just like this one actually looks like, the shape of a cheetah, and this one definitely looks better as a tiger, even though it also has the annoying like fake yellowing going on. It's like really like they're not hedging their bets, it's they're like, well, it's going to get yellow eventually, so we might as well just like do some of that now so it's less noticeable. But it's more of like a pinky yellow. I don't know, we talked about that in his review, but either way, that's what they look like with them. But yeah, to get onto transformation, or I guess articulation, there's not a whole lot. There's the legs back here will become the robot mode legs, so you can kind of bring them up and down here. There is a thigh swivel, a knee joint there, and that's pretty much it. That's all you get for articulation. You can also do that, but that's not really worth anything. Mouth doesn't open or anything like that. But yeah, to get onto transformation, we can take the tail weapon and just unpeg it here. Obviously, if you had the gut gun, that would unpeg as well. Also worth mentioning is the gut gun was actually like a water squirt weapon, so he doesn't have that functionality anymore, obviously. But yeah, and then you can take the legs here and just unfold them like this, rotate them around at the thigh so that the blue part is on the outside, and then flip out the robot mode toes here, just like that. Then we can rotate this whole section around like that. Take this section of the back, which can be kind of difficult to get on mine, it's actually like really tight, so it's kind of difficult to actually get a fingernail on it. I'll do the arms first. We'll take the front legs of the cheetah here and just fold them back like this. Then you can take the arms, and if you get just one of them out, then you can at least kind of leverage this section out a bit more and fold this down to be the waist piece. And again, on mine, that section is just like really tight for whatever reason. And then you can take the arms the rest of the way out and just fold them out like that, rotate them around, and then unfold them at the elbow. I've really always liked the way that the back transforms for this guy with, these three pieces making up the back. I always just thought that was really clever. Then you can take the cheetah head, fold it down on this armature, and then rotate it around like this, and then it will kind of fold up. And I think you're supposed to be able to have it so it like sits down like this, but it really just like sticks out very awkwardly no matter which way you do it. And also on mine, for whatever reason, it never wants to sit quite right. Like it's kind of rotating that way a little bit. Like there is a locking point in the middle, but it doesn't, keep this actually sitting like symmetrically, which is a little bit annoying. Maybe something about this back panel is just like misaligned on mine. I'm not totally sure. And then you can take the head and just flip it up like that. And there we have Cheetor in his robot mode. And looks pretty good. I would say that the one big thing about this robot mode that I've never liked is just how the chest doesn't like fully compress really. Like it kind of sticks out all the way like that. Or if you even fold it down so it's, more pointed down, it still sticks out. So, and also when you're looking at him like straight on, it always like covers the face a little bit, which is a little bit annoying, but whatever. In terms of his gimmicks here, obviously he still has the mutant head gimmick where you like take this section and I guess for this mode you just flip it up like that. And so it's like sits like that. There's a few different ways that you can kind of like have the head stored in alt mode. I usually just flip it up like that, but you could also like rotate it around or rotate it around and flip it up. I always personally like to leave it so that, it's like this. So at least, the robot mode face is a little bit hidden, but at least most of the detail is actually yellow on the underside here, but you can kind of do it whichever way. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head has that swivel there and then can also look up and down because it's like on a hinge, like at the side here, which is kind of interesting just because of the beast mode, the beast head gimmick. The shoulders have a little bit of a forward butterfly joint just because of transformation. Then they're also on ball joints here, which can rotate all around like that. It's got a bicep swivel, a full elbow bend for transformation. He has a waist swivel, even though it kind of ends up bumping into the front piece here, but still pretty decent range. He's got ball joints at the hips, which can go forward. They kind of bump into the top here, so that you kind of have to like bend them out of the way to actually get it, past there. Back like that, out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel. He's got about 90 degrees of bend at the knee and then nothing at the feet. So honestly, pretty modern articulation on this guy. Like, definitely the thighs could more easily go a little bit forward and, a modern figure would have like ankle tilts, but his feet are shaped in such a way that it doesn't really like look bad when his legs are spread just because like of how thin the actual toe pieces are. So honestly, like he kind of stands up in terms of articulation, even has like that forward, butterfly joint. But, still, I feel like even just the whole thing with having the chest here makes him kind of clunky no matter what. But still, it's pretty decent there. And obviously, don't have the gut gun. But if you want to give him the tail gun, you can just unfold it like that and put it in his hand. Unfortunately, there is no storage really for either weapon. I guess maybe the gut gun could have pegged into there. I'm not totally sure, but I think it would have been sticking up, which would have looked a little awkward. In terms of the tail gun, you can kind of peg it into where it was before, like that. But it's, you're going to have like the tail kind of hanging out right between his legs. And I don't think that looks particularly good. What I usually do for the tail gun here is I'll actually kind of just sort of like loosely loop it underneath here, because if you get it sitting in a certain way, it does kind of stay. Obviously, it's not a very good connection, but if you've got gravity working in its favor, honestly, it's kind of similar to the same deal with the Kingdom Cheetor's weapon, where it's just like, oh yeah, it stays when you're having the figure upright, but it's not actually like a tight connection. But honestly, that works for me. It's a, kind of a similar solution there. But yeah, to get onto comparisons in this mode, we'll start off by bringing Tigatron back on here, just so you can see what the two of them look like together. And while transforming him, I noticed that the yellowing doesn't even totally line up in this mode. Like still, this one is on the wrong side there, which is I'm not sure how that happened, so that's kind of interesting, but most of it is now in line there. But yeah, you can see, I think that they both look good in robot mode, but the head sculpt is just much more clearly Cheetor, which, you know, granted, like that was like the model, oh my gosh, the toy came out first and then they made the show model from it, so that's understandable. But yeah, no, I feel like if they had actually designed him with a different head sculpt to begin with, then his head sculpt would have looked like radically different from Cheetor's. So, you know, I think that they both look good, all things considered. But yeah, and then we can bring on Kingdom Sideswipe for that standard size comparison. You can see they're pretty much average size deluxes there. And then we'll bring back on Netflix Cheetor and Kingdom Tigatron just so you can see what they look like with their newer versions there. And yeah, I mean, obviously in robot mode, I think that, you know, the new ones really take the cake. I think that they look a lot better than the original ones, but still, it's kind of cool to see all of them together there. That's what I always really liked about the new versions, is that they still kind of feel like they're the same mold, even though they're definitely not, just because like he's kind of just like an upscaled and slightly altered version of him, but a lot of the details are still the same. The transformation is still largely the same, but, you know, yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much all there is to them. They're okay figures. I would say that, you know, the alt mode, I mean, in the case of Tigatron, I think the alt mode is good. Cheetor is like, doesn't look quite cheetah proportioned. And then robot mode, I really like them if it just weren't for like the humongous like head sticking out of their chest. I just think if that had compressed in a more, you know, kind of reasonable way, then they would be a lot better for me. But yeah, you know, what can you do? But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to them. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Beast Wars Floppy Elbows Cheetor.